You're live.
Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And we're on 8.1. Economic Development Marketing Levy Bylaw.
Oh, I read that last night. It put me to sleep.
Marketing levy bylaw.
No, not really.
If you can stay away through diatoms and all that kind of stuff, I figure this is a little less technical. So.
Or I like Alan's critters.
Like what?
You called them critters. I like that better than diatoms.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, well, couldn't remember all that.
Critters works.
I knew there was some kind of a little critter.
Okay, so basically, I won't read the request for decision, which everybody has in front of them, but just to summarize it briefly, there's been conversations for quite some time around implementing the marketing levy for the municipality and for the region as a whole. In 2022, the province made changes to allow municipalities to raise this levy, and then changes were made again in 2023 to include not just the larger hotels, but all accommodations that are overnight stays for people visiting the area, so that the levy could be applied to any visitor who is visiting the region, regardless of how they're staying in the area. So what we're looking for direction on today is a decision from council to direct staff to initiate stakeholder engagement to inform the development of the bylaw. So we're not looking to approve the bylaw at this stage. What we want to do is go away, work with stakeholders to identify what the bylaw should look like, do some estimates around how much revenue it will generate for the municipality and how it could potentially be used, so how we would set up the usage of any revenues that are brought in, as well as the best ways to, for example, administer the program, because there's going to be a remittance requirement from all the different operators, so we want to make that as smooth as possible. So we want to go through the process of working with all the stakeholders to identify the best ways to put the bylaw together and bring it back to council for future first reading. So that's what
Sounds reasonable.
My biggest question is, you identified one in the municipality, which I assume is Oklahoma Resort.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it started.
That's how it started.
It's now applies to the littler places.
Little places. I guess.
Airbnbs.
Well, to me, whether it's hotel, Airbnb, whatever, short-term rental of some kind. I guess my biggest problem with it is that, these guys have all gone through major smashes through COVID. And, to be hit with another levy, just for the sake of a levy, to bring it into the the municipal's hands, and that, I guess, if you're going to do a deep dive at it, how much is it going to cost to administer? How much are we going to get? But I guess my biggest point is, I don't want to hit anybody with another tax. That's the way I feel.
Yeah. But just so you know, Oak Island Resort has been in favor of this levy, depending on the way in which it was used to help market off seasons.
Well,
so they have been in support at this point.
If I can add, the money's going to go back into tourism.
100%.
Even some of the money may be funneled back to that group that can actually say where the money's going to end up.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't cost them, I can't say it won't cost them money, but they won't pay the levy. It'll be the people that stay in the hotel will pay the levy.
oh, I understand that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I hope it doesn't negatively affect someone's decision to stay there.
Well,
That's where I'm looking
well,
at.
they have been up to this point.
So they have been in favor.
That's correct.
That shocks me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, no, and as was I, knowing and recognizing and hearing that Atlantica was in favor. And you've explained that very well, that up to this point, of course, 21 and 22, 23, that it was simply the larger facilities. And again, up until receiving this memo, that was my understanding, that the direction, the route that we were going, the path that we were following. And again, coupled with the fact that Atlantica themselves or itself was in favor, I was in favor to getting us to this point. But then receiving this kind of, again, maybe I just wasn't following as closely as I should, but it kind of just took me over to left field a little bit. not knowing that this was happening or underway or a pursuit of ours as a municipality. But you've certainly intrigued me in your statements around stakeholder engagement. So stakeholder engagement is asking not just simply how a decision maybe that we've already made might be mapped out. It's actually asking them what they think.
Correct.
Okay, it's asking the communities of impact what they think with the idea around a levy. Not the fact that we are introducing necessarily in ink a levy. Okay, so we already know how Atlantica thinks. Okay.
And it's an education piece. It's an education piece in there to educate them on what we would use the levies for, who would pay the levies. And so, and they're not uncommon levies. Like pretty much anywhere else you go in a lot of the places you would go in Canada to get a hotel room, you're going to be paying a levy.
Sure,
So,
absolutely, yeah.
they're not uncommon, and it's the way the legislation is written, it has to go back into tourism and marketing purposes.
Get all that.
So it's being done to support and grow the sector.
Efforts to bring people to their own facilities, okay.
Yeah. Andre, I think, has his hand up.
I was just curious, I know we haven't got the detail yet, but how do you envision this would be administered? Because, you know, we're kind of in the business of taxing property tax, you know, doing property values, but, you know, this isn't that. So, like, how, in your mind, do you think that, like, if Tina converts her garden shed into an Airbnb, how do we, when she charges 3% to Derek, when Derek comes to stay there in Newark, she wants to go to Ruby's Trail, spend the night at Tina's shed, you know, how do we make sure that that 3% comes back to, like, I'm not sure how would that be done?
So that would be part of the engagement. We're trying to set that up as best we could so that it works for all the stakeholders. However, with that said, the way that they've done it in a number of different places, and I don't want to call them out for some of the ways that they've done it, but the basic way it's done is for self-remittance. So it's for people to add a set schedule of time to report on how many room nights they've sold, what the cost of those room nights were, and to remit the 3%.
It's the honor system.
It's done very much in most places on the honor system. Yeah.
I will say that there are efforts and discussions underway about potentially working with the platforms, so the Airbnbs and the VBROs and Booking.com, to make sure that they are collecting and then they're submitting to the municipalities, as opposed to us dealing with 300 properties, that it's done through their platform and then they submit one remittance to the municipalities. But that discussion is still happening.
Because I could see that we would miss a few.
Yes.
Most definitely, or they would just fail to remit. It would be okay for Oak Island, but not necessarily others in the municipality. But I think if it was consistent all across our county, it would be nice.
Well, that's the intent.
You know, I wouldn't want us to charge 3% for somebody else too, but.
Yeah, no, great.
I guess my biggest issue is just another level of bureaucracy that's going to end us costing us money. And just my opinion, you know, it's just the taxation piece bothers me. And I know you're going to explore what it's going to cost to implement, but these things always, you know what, turn into a entity of their own, and it takes on another life, and you have to be hiring staff. But anyway, I'm really not for it. I know the Oak Island probably is, but personally, I'm not. I don't agree with another taxation.
Part of it also was when we were trying to deal with the Airbnbs, and that they're commercial businesses in many respects, and they don't pay commercial tax, and this was one way of trying to manage that to some degree, so that it would spirit everybody.
I guess I'm somewhere between Abdullah and Alan here. Because it's unpleasant. Because I think when we did the initial consultation, we were really only consulting with one entity.
This is the only one that applied.
Which was interested in it, and frankly, they could charge 3% more and do their own marketing if they wished. Anyway, so we were like, well, sure, fine. Now it's grown to something that's a little different. And I feel like if I were in support of this, I'd rather scale it back, like, or at least rather than using the engagement to determine what we should put in the bylaw, I'd actually rather have a discussion with a larger number of parties whether they are interested in this, because we actually haven't engaged with those folks, all of those individual smaller operations, whether this is something they want. We only heard from one person. So in the decision here, if really one of the options would be to, engage for the development of a marketing bylaw, I would rather drop back to maybe 2 years ago when we were discussing whether this is something they would be interested in. I think if we had input from that on how we would do it, can we do it electronically, control it, or is it going to be, on your honor system or like all these different things? I think that would better inform whether we want to proceed to a bylaw.
Oh, sorry, Derek.
When he's finished, I just want to get your attention, that's all.
Yeah.
Are you finished? Yeah. I don't think this was discussed since I was at the table, I don't think. So this predates me, I think, because I don't
It's been
remember.
going on a long time,
Yeah, I don't remember it all, so we haven't committed to anything at this point.
No.
No bylaw has been drafted from what I read. It's something we're gonna try to put together. I'm taken by the 800 bedrooms that are registered, 237 residential properties that are acting as hotels in the municipality. And there's probably a lot more that aren't registered. Would that be a fair assessment?
Potentially. Potentially. We don't know if they're not registered, we don't know if they exist.
Well,
our understanding from.
Can we get a list? Can we get a list of the ones that are registered? I can tell you a lot of them that exist and aren't registered. It's on a list. So not a big, I think we all know in our own communities where the Airbnbs are, or registered or not. We don't know if they're registered, we just know that they're coming and going.
This is partly to try to control that.
Yeah, I understand it. I'm not against engagement. How are you going to engage, I won't say 800 bedrooms, but 237 civic addresses? How are you going to do that?
So jumping back to your question about do we have a list, we get a daily list from Tourism Nova Scotia that updates with the registered properties, so we can provide that daily. Trust me, you don't want the emails daily. Every single day.
I just want one list.
But,
I just want one list for District 3. I don't care what's going on in Blandford.
So we absolutely have that. The other thing that, while there are some that are likely operating that aren't registered as of 2023, in order to be listed on Airbnb, different sites, they have to be registered. They require their registration number to even list them. So I would guess that the numbers that are not registered have significantly decreased. It doesn't mean it's zero. That's the way. So we can provide a list of them.
So how do you plan to engage all these people?
We would put together an engagement plan for how to reach out to them, but we don't have that plan in place at the present time. But we would be going through the list and trying to contact every single person and get them involved in the process of
Plus advertising.
But if you're contacted, do you have the contacts that you can contact through that list? Do you have a name and an address so you could contact each one with a registered letter?
I'd have to go back and double check, but we have the registration details as to where they're located, as well as contact details for where the registration goes to as an address.
Because we're going to do engagement, we have to make sure that you know that no matter how much you engage, it won't be a real uproar when it's implemented, because these people didn't know it was coming.
Oh,
yes.
That's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we have to consider that before we start the engagement.
Absolutely.
So that they get some type of personal contact, not on the website, not in the post office on the bulletin board. That's not engagement in my world.
Yeah, 100%. And not as a late remittance bill that happened in certain places.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in this in conjunction with the planning changes that we're looking at making and trying to identify who these people are.
My biggest issue is that when you vote for this engagement, like Terry said, I mean, I'm talking from the private sector that I used to be in, you're going to get a lot of pushback from private owners. Again, that are registered, I'd be shocked if you don't. I'd be shocked.
Absolutely.
And so if you come back and then you say, that's why I think with the motion, you know, to inform that, you know, we're looking at inform the development of a marketing levy bylaw. I guess that could be the, I mean, it's just that I think we're going down a road here that I don't know how you're going to engage, and you're obviously, if I was in business and I had an Airbnb, whether it was registered or not, and someone come up to me and put $100 in my hand, cash, well, do you think they're going to report it? I mean, in the real world, that's how it works. So.
You didn't do business that way, did you?
No, not at all. I'm just saying, I'm giving you an example.
Oh.
It's just that like we're trying to catch a jaguar here or a tiger, and I don't, you know, anyway, I'll leave it at that. I just don't think it's a good idea. But if you want to do the legwork and do the engagement, I just think it's a lot of staff time and like holy smokes, even to get to that point, to my view.
Yeah, Derek first and then back to you.
To Abdallah's point, I think, on the options, Abdallah, direct staff to initiate stakeholder engagement to inform development of a marketing levy. It's all, in other words, we're having a marketing levy, we're informing you. That's not what I want.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I
That's
thought.
what you were saying.
Yeah.
I want community engagement, but let's ask them what they think of it. How many of those 250 actually support it? We know one does, which is a big one, but the other 249, if they're legal entities, kind of pushback you go to get there. I don't think we go tell them we're putting in a marketing levy. I think we're consulting.
We're considering.
Yeah, but the option one, in my view, Mr. Ward, is improperly worded.
Okay.
That's not what we're going to do. I think there's a fourth option. We'll consult with them, but we're not telling them that we're not informing them of a marketing levy bylaw for first reading. That's not what we're doing.
We don't have it yet.
Yeah, and see, sorry, Sharon.
You're missing my point.
Just curious, Atlantica Hotel, could they, if they wanted to, put their own marketing levy on that bill and then,
No,
you
they don't
know?
have legal authority to do. People
They
don't have to pay.
legal authority to
People
do
won't have to
that.
pay it. People will push back and say you can't do that.
Because, I mean,
No.
I know certain municipalities do. I've been to many, Cape Breton.
Almost all.
They've had it on it for ages.
Many of them, if you question it, they'll take it off because they know they don't have the legal authority. They need this to have the legal authority to do it.
And I'm not against the levy, not at all. What I'm against is if Oak Island Inn is in favor of the levy, let them collect it, let them do their own marketing with their 3% levy if they choose to do that.
That's what I just said, but they can't. They don't have the legal.
They don't.
Well, so what do you mean they don't have? So if we give them, so we have to give them the right
To do it.
to do it.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of that.
And the money
Okay,
comes to
so-
us.
Okay, so, and they have to remit it to us. Is that, so they just can't administer it and then do whatever they want with it?
They just put the rates up $5 and take that $5 and put it to marketing. I mean, that's
Yeah,
it's not the
But
same.
they can't establish a marketing
I just
levy.
think for us to get involved in it, it's gonna be another level, as I said before, I'm just
Well,
repeating.
the reason they were for it is because they wanted Lunenburg County as a group to work together to try to market the off seasons and things for them, which it's hard for one person to do all by themselves.
Yeah, so, and just coming back to that conversation as a whole, part of the reason why there's benefits to this being a self-administered thing. There's obviously going to be people who might not fully report, et cetera, but the intention of the funds is to support the development of the industry that they are in as a whole. And as accommodation providers in the region, you don't just sell an accommodation by itself. It's part of an entire tourism industry where that industry requires events, activities, experiences, different things to actually thrive.
To bring people.
And so the idea is to develop a fund that helps market and develop that industry, which brings more visitors to each of these accommodations. So the idea behind this levy is to support the development of the industry writ large, as opposed to just a single accommodation provider. So it can be used in many different ways to market to different if you could use some of it to develop marketing plans for Oak Island specifically, for example, as a municipality, but you can also use it to develop and market the region as a whole and support the development of the industry itself. And to your point about informed development I'm, again, not a lawyer, so I wouldn't read this, but our intention behind this was to do the work to put together the bylaw itself, not to necessarily, if the engagement came back with the fact that this was purely rejected, I don't think we would ever bring the marketing bylaw
Yeah, well, that's
forward.
what I think. Yeah, that's where I like that.
So why would you draft it if you're not gonna bring it forward?
But it's to inform the development of it. So if the development means that it shouldn't move forward, that's how I would read it. But like I said, I'm not. But we can change that and massage that in any way, shape, or form that
Yeah, I get your drift. It's not the way I interpret it.
Andre?
I'd just like to move that we initiate, get staff to initiate stakeholder engagement to determine interest in a marketing levy.
Is that a motion?
That's the motion.
And I'll second that motion.
Discussion. All those in favor?
She had
Carried.
discussion now, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
To be honest, it's probably not a discussion as part of the motion, because I did indicate that I wanted to speak and you said after Andre.
Well, he made a motion.
I know, it's very difficult sometimes when we do that. So my question, not related to the motion, but yet related to the entirety of our discussion, is where is Events Lunenburg County these days? We sponsored them, they were new on the block, they came in here and did a big presentation. I can't remember, I should know it better than this, but I think we gave them $5,000. We gave them a big chunk of money. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But where are they? Like, do they just exist for a year and then go away?
I don't.
Chair? Comment a little bit because I was part of that group, and so essentially I think why Events Lunenburg County stopped meeting and doing events is because the members of that group were doing some of the work kind of on the side of their desk, and so the discussions around Events Lunenburg County was we need some sustainable funding, and they weren't prepared to go to municipalities to ask for that money. And so part of that discussion was the event levy was looked upon as a potential solution for that committee to continue that work. And because that had not happened, essentially Events Lunenburg County has not met in person as a group for probably a couple of years now. So the money that was raised and that was brought in, that money was used. It was used for those events that took place. So there was several events that happened, and so that those funds were used in accordance with how they were received. But the committee itself has not
Basically not operational
because there has not been any sustainable funding to allow them to continue to attract events to the region.
Yeah, I get all that. I understand that work on the side of the desk and so on. But kind of zeroing in on a smaller kind of focus would be the work that, let's say, the Ross Farm and Atlantica does together, right? Because it makes sense that they work together. It's part of what they do as executive directors of those organizations. It's elevating the profile of the municipality, of their facilities. It's ultimately bringing dollars through their door. I get all that, but I guess just all these layers, right? Yeah, so that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so we've already passed the motion. So,
Thanks.
Hey, Brian, thanks.
where did I just put the motion?
You love this. I do. I know you do.
There it is.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just printed out the maps too in case, but we've talked about this for quite a while. We feel that it's a good idea, and Sam, we really put everything in the right words that everybody suggested to date. And if there are any comments, we'll make them now. If not, we'll prepare for the first reading. PowerPoint presentations, all that good stuff.
I'm gonna ask you this question last night and I couldn't answer it. Where did we land on hookup charges?
6,000 per EDU, and if it's more than one per pipe, it'd be 4,000 for the following ones, or portion out. So say there's a hotel or a 12-unit building, it'd be 6,000 for one. And then
For each of
4,000
the rest.
for all the rest, right?
And it was a single unit dwelling home,
Yes, it's based on single unit
so
dwelling.
that would be, if someone has a single, just a home,
Yeah,
one family home,
yes,
that's $6,000.
correct.
Is there something, is there something that will make this bylaw come up for review in terms of its fee structure on a rotating basis? Because we have a bad habit of putting fixed fees in and then time merges on and $6,000 makes no sense anymore in 20 years.
No.
Yeah, do we have something in place to automatically make that?
So I think much like we would review the EDU every year, we would review the revenue that comes in from this.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what we asked for.
So the development that's on Sanford Lake, is a sewer up in there, I'm not sure, or are we connecting it up there?
It's,
So how does that work?
progress right now.
They're building.
They're building, so do they fall within this or this? No.
They will be adopted.
They'll fall within, okay.
So I have a question because of course, some of the neighbors there are getting wind of this. If you have an existing on-site sewer system that's perfectly fine, you do not have to hook up when this line goes by.
Correct, that's one of the exemptions, that they can show,
I was
yes, this
reading that,
is
just-
built in, yeah,
But will they still be charged a minimum?
1/3.
Yeah, small fee.
yeah,
A
Is it
small
one-
fee
Is it
yearly?
1/3?
yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah,
So what is that
20%.
in dollar cents? Just
Around 220-ish,
It's a third.
yeah,
20 a year they'd have to pay,
Yeah.
and there's no exemption to that.
no,
Sorry, what was the number again?
it's around 220 bucks, it's a third of the.
It's a third of the EDU unit
Yeah,
charge. Which is $700, it's a third of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
this is-
because if, as soon as theirs fail, they're gonna hook up.
It gives them the opportunity to hold the spot, that's what I think.
But they don't have to hook up,
No.
because I know some that have, they're brand new houses and they just put a,
exactly, that's why the exemptions are there, right? And if they're like, if they're really, you know, they're 800 meters from the road too, well, then that's another thing, I say, well, yeah, it doesn't make sense for you to do that.
they probably will, some may have an issue with that EDU partial rate, but
Yeah.
I guess it's going up.
It's like that we were sharing, it's been in my area since Alan's area.
Time,
And I've had people ask me, and I told them this is what it's for. And if you want to hook up to the sewer,
And
because there's people that have
will be happy.
little spots of land that are
Yeah,
buildable, but yeah.
Yeah, because most of the lots there are like at least an acre or more.
yeah,
I'm not saying all of them, there's certainly the ones, Mallard Lane, they're already into the system.
exactly.
But the ones that go around Stanford Lake are big lots,
That's right.
so.
Give them the ability to divide those lots into
In
more
the future,
places.
yeah, it'd be better for them.
Yeah, the
Andre?
the value of the land is increased phenomenally when you put sewer in front of it, so even though they don't have an immediate need for it, like, it's sort of like, it's kind of like if they look to their future, it's a massive investment in their pension plan probably.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think we have to, as a council, really galvanize ourselves. If we're going to do sewer expansions, this is going to be an ongoing dialogue we have with people that have on-site sewage. As we push the sewer shed out, you know, those people that have solved their problems are going to incur this minimal charge, and we're going to continually confront it. So, you know, we have to stiffen up our, and prepare ourselves for that, because, you know.
If you don't, you can't, what's the point in expanding?
You can't expand if you can't deal with this.
Well, I know, but I just am speaking on behalf of, say, somebody that would be a senior citizen on fixed income, and now they're faced with an additional charge per year. I'm just speaking on behalf of some of those that,
There is a price to pay for central sewer.
you know, extra money is, it's just extra money that they
I
have
mean,
to
really, the only way you could deal with it is if you deal with it like a tax relief on your property tax, and that would be another bylaw, and you know what I mean?
Well, we're already giving them tax relief.
Well, that's right, but what I'm saying,
Unless
if
they-
you pay that EDU unit 1/3 and it's a burden, and your income level is this much, you know, it's prorated. I mean, I'm just thinking that that's the only way you'd be able to deal with it, because, I mean, I have some people in my area that, there's not a lot that have,
The wrong system.
that have a piece of land that they're paying 1/3 on, But once I explain to them why that's there, they're fine with it, because I don't have that many. I might have 4 in Western
But
Shore.
when we expand it in Chester Basin, am I gonna get pushback on it? Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure.
But
Yeah, that's,
there's only so many options out there in this world.
you want sewer, and that's where it's
It's
at.
gonna be cheaper for them in the long run.
In the, yeah.
It's a
As
fleeting.
soon as there's breaks, they'll be happy.
The complaint will be short-lived
Yeah.
because those that come after them will be very pleased that it's there.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we're,
Notice of intention.
notice of intention to adopt? Somebody prepared to move that?
Oh. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.
Good. Thank you, Brad.
Big bad Fred.
Now, 9.1, Community Development Recreation Fire Inspection Report. Yeah.
So, back with a report as requested by council. So we had Mr. Wallace, the owner of Western Shore Express, came into council and presented some concerns to council with the recent fire inspections that have been happening at his business. And so this report is intended to be that follow-up that council had requested. So you can see in the background, we did outline the inspections that have taken place, which essentially lined up with what Mr. Wallace had outlined in his presentation to council there a couple of weeks ago. And so essentially, the business is set up as a Group D occupancy, and so the intent, the way our policy is set up is that the inspection of that facility would be every 5 years. And so that was the original intent when it was done by former fire inspection that was completed, and the follow-up inspection wasn't scheduled until 2024. And so that normally is what happens, is we generally speaking, we don't go into businesses or facilities that early. We have enough of a job keeping up with it, just getting there after that whatever that scheduled inspections are. So the intent behind this report is partly to explain how why we were in there, and so essentially it was based on our on complaints that came in. And I think part of the question that came up in the conversation with Mr. Wallace was around the anonymous complaints. And so our services, our inspection services are based, as everyone knows, based on a complaint-driven basis, and so that when complaints come into the office, that is when we would respond. So whether it's somebody building without a permit for a building inspection, or if it's somebody complaining about an unsightly property, or in this case, if it was a fire-related safety concern, then we do respond to those complaints as they come in. And so the anonymous piece is always challenging. So we do have quite a number of people that call with concerns. They want to register a complaint of those ones that I just listed. And a lot of times they would prefer not to leave their name because they're worried that the person they're complaining about potential would want to would not be happy with them if they found out who made the complaint. Then there'd be kind of some fearful of reprisal. So that is partly why we do respond to anonymous complaints. It is for that fact. So in this particular instance, Mr. Wallace did mention the fact that he believed there was some potentially some racist undertones to those anonymous complaints, and that's a huge concern from my perspective. We do know that when people call to complain, there are potentially sometimes ulterior motives. So somebody is calling to complain, I'm going to get the municipality to come after you because I'm unhappy with you for X reason, right? And whether that's neighbors not getting along with neighbors or what have you. However, we don't know those alternative motives when those complaints come in. So when Mr. Wallace mentioned that was the first out of that, I absolutely, or any of our staff had aware of some of those potential ulterior motives to some of those complaints. So one of the things I suggested in here and in the report kind of towards.
You want to speak now, Sharon?
Well, I'll just say, I personally am not in favor of the anonymous complaints. I think they can leave their name and you can say, we're not going to reveal it, but you should have a name and address on file. I don't think we should be responding to anonymous complaints. That's just my opinion.
Just
Yeah, putting it on file makes it FOIA poppable, so that's part of the reason,
would
is that
become
we can't
public.
guarantee that would become.
Yeah, we can't guarantee their anonymity.
Even if you just take their name?
No.
Are Crime Stoppers anonymous?
My goodness.
Andre?
In my dealings with like other regulators, like say Department of Environment, they require,
Yes,
they
do.
require a contact
Yeah.
person. They won't act on anonymous. So how is it that they do that?
So it means that the person submitting the complaint would have to be aware that it could be released. So we can absolutely do it as a policy, being aware that if somebody says, no, I don't want to submit my name, then we wouldn't act on that complaint. And so the discussions in the past have been, well, we would like to be able to react to those complaints.
I think that's.
So it's a balance of, and it's a policy decision of, do you want us to act on anonymous complaints and try to be proactive with those, or say, no, absolutely, we don't accept anonymous complaints, you have to submit your name, and then they would have to know that
They could be
potential
public.
that could be public. We would try to protect that, obviously, but it's under freedom of information and protection of privacy. That may have to be something that we would have to release. And as soon as we say that to people, they say, no, I don't want to bother submitting a complaint. So that's the discussion of, you're right, environment will not do it anonymously.
They will not.
But we've had the discussion in the past of, do we want to be proactive and reactive to those anonymous complaints or not? And we've decided in the past, yes, but we can absolutely.
Derek, and then
It's a good discussion, and I appreciate what you're saying. Crime Stoppers, as an example, they're anonymous, aren't they? It wouldn't work if it was otherwise. And do we want to stop something like that when people, there sometimes is a reason. I'm not saying there was no racism here and that again, I don't think there was. And I can see it could be abused. But to shut off any anonymous complaints.
there's consequences.
Consequences either way. So I have to reflect on that. I like our policy. I don't like our policy of it being complaint driven. I think we should be taking more initiative on some of these things. I think that's enforcing your laws by complaint, I think, is a archaic, crazy
We
way
do
to
the
go.
5-year review, it's just that we don't go over if we aren't aware that there's an issue.
No, but it's just on the discussion of whether or not we accept anonymous complaints. I think there's a place for it, and I'm not against it.
Yeah, do you want to speak?
This is Derek.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, I agree with Derek 100%. If you get rid of anonymous complaints, you may have some people that may not want to be, if you say, okay, you have to leave your name, well, never mind. And then what if there is an actual issue at that building? It can create kind of a little bit of a mess in that way of investigating those complaints. Because if those complaints are not investigated and something happens, it comes back to the fire inspection and the municipality. So.
Yeah, and speaking to that, and in your report, this is the part that I like. Where you don't conduct it, you sort of conduct an informal.
Well, I think that's part of what we're suggesting.
Exactly.
In this particular instance,
Yes.
we scheduled a formal
Yes.
fire inspection.
I like that part about it. It's less formal. And speaking for John, I go there every day. He's getting there. I spoke to him yesterday and told him it was on the agenda today. And he's always complied, and he's not belligerent about anything about, no, I'm not doing this. He's always helpful that way, and I really like this idea, so that if you do get an anonymous complaint, you can go over it and, basically tell them it's informal, but you get your eyes on it, and that protects you, the municipality, and everybody. So I really like that in the report.
Yeah, so one of the things we don't want to have happen is we don't want our system of fire inspections. It's intended to keep the public safe. That's the main goal of our fire inspections, right? So we fully understand that Mr. Walls has a fantastic business in the community, and we don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the success of that business. However, in some respects, if you look at it, when those complaints come in, when the fire inspection did a visit, there were things that were of concern, right? And so the primary one being the amount of goods that are in the facility for sale, and some of the egress and the distance of the items to the ceiling and the width of aisles and all those kind of things. So in some respects, the complaint system worked because we were able to go in, do an inspection, identify deficiencies. The business owner was very cooperative, and he addressed all those issues and came into compliance, and then we're at a good position. And then over time, changes are made, and we're in the situation that we are now.
Except for the January 30th, it's January 30th, 2023, there was no complaint then. So there's nothing on file to tell you why it did that.
Right.
So that's the outlier in there, so.
Yeah. And I'm newer to the position. I've been here for 5 months, so when I generated this report, I can only go with what's on file. So, yeah.
Anyway, I just want to make sure there is a contradiction in there. Yeah. Sorry, Sam.
I have to say, I think part of the problem might be we're using that word complaint as if they were complaining, in the sense that really it's information. And because they might say, I have no problem with it, it's not going to burn my house down. But it's a danger to the neighbors around them, it's a danger to the public. So I'm not complaining, I'm just informing.
Bring it to our attention.
Bring it to your attention. What you do with it is yours. And so if you said we're not taking anonymous complaints or information, but it's a serious issue that they've blurted out.
Right.
And then they say, well, I'm not leaving my name. Then you say, okay. Then what are you going to do? Then you put your fire inspector in a situation.
Because he was informed.
I now know that there's a serious or potentially a serious issue here. What do I do?
I will say too, I've only been here 5 months, and there's only been one anonymous complaint in regards to fire inspection. That maybe a few other complaints, but those were named as well. So they don't come in at a high frequency by any means.
This was an unusual circumstance. Yeah. So, people?
It was just a report, right? There's no motion.
Yeah, there is. Like I said, if there is any direction for a change in how we're handling those complaints, then we would do that. But if not, then we'll kind of keep status quo and deal with those issues as they come up. And I guess if that frequency were to change and we were to get a lot of anonymous complaints as it relates to fire, we could bring that back.
To Sam's point, can we change the wording? It's not necessarily a complaint.
Well,
yeah, I'm not sure that it changes our response if somebody calls to complain or they're calling for.
But they may not be complaining. They may be informed. I think there is a distinction with a difference, and I take the point.
So just to follow up on that, though, if somebody calls with information or if they're calling in complaints, our fire inspector is in the same position of whether they respond or not, right? So, but yeah,
I'm just trying to be factually correct. The sense that they're not necessarily complaining; they're just informing.
Yeah,
there is a difference.
Yeah. Sam, you first, then.
No, I think it's exactly right. I think if the word was information, information can be valuable or useless to whoever it arrives, and you would have to assess it. But if it's serious, what they're telling you, you're going to feel obliged to respond.
Right. Doesn't matter what you call it.
However you got it.
I will say, under the National Fire Code and every fire inspector training program in Canada, there's 3 types of inspections. There's an initial inspection, there's a re-inspection, and there's a complaint inspection. And those are the 3 that exist. And that's kind of how you follow the system. That's in every training program.
Okay, thank you for the report.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, corporate strategic management fire services registration.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Bruce.
their hands because they're like,
I just wanted to present the request for decision on policy P33, which is the registration documentation for the fire departments. I apologize at the beginning because the information report somehow was not attached to your package, but I'll make sure that that goes out. It has no, it's just information on the call reports, which I normally present annually also. So I'll make sure that that gets into the minutes in the package. So.
Can't go to the minutes till we see it, don't we?
I'm sorry?
I think we go to the minutes till we see it.
Okay, I'll submit it separately then.
We can circulate it to council and then we
Before the
can
minutes
attach it to the
yeah.
minutes for next,
Yeah.
we can put it.
It has no impact on the request for decision, but it is the information report. So.
We'll put it in the minutes next meeting.
On the background, policy P33, as you're aware, is our annual registration requirements for our fire commissions and fire departments. They were requested to submit the appropriate operational evidence annually for the ability to provide the services for which it is registered. They're also required to provide the fire tax that they're planning to levy for next year, and provide proof of appropriate liability, firefighter insurance coverage, and audited financial statements. So this information has been received over the last several months, and I've reviewed it, and the overall conclusion is registration submitted indicates that the fire departments are adequately funded, equipped, and trained to provide the services for which they're registered. I'll go into a couple of highlights. Under fire tax rates, Martins River had dropped their fire tax to 18 cents from 20 cents per $100 of assessment in 2022-23. And there were no other changes in the fire tax rates, which are currently ranging from 10.5 cents to 18 cents per $100 of assessment. On the financials, all of the commissions have submitted their March 31st, 2023 financial statements audited by provincially accredited audit firms. And so that is all on file. In the corporate status, we did put through the new Chester Advisory Committee, is now registered under the Societies Act. So that was one change. But all the other fire departments, with the exclusion of Hubbard's, are in good standing. And Hubbard's is very actively working to resolve that. And they're like a couple of minutes away from getting that done. So their commission is very active in that. Insurances, no major changes in the insurance. We continue to be with Gallagher and Intact. The rates and the premiums are up, basically on adverse market conditions in the industry in Canada. They were up over 7%, and we're anticipating that they're going to continue to rise over the next year. I think we're budgeting up to 20% in insurance rates. So it's not good news there, but there are a lot of claims out there with the various natural disasters that we've been having. The other comment on insurance is that our workers' compensation, the municipality covers the premiums for workers' compensation for our firefighters. Our rate, we've had some claims, nothing serious, but as you know, they have a running total of claims, which lasts like 3 years on a cyclic basis. So our current rate is 89 cents per 100 versus the fire services rate basic at 70 cents per 100. So we're running a little bit higher than the basic fire service rate. That is an impact of about $17,000 for next year's WCB costs. We're working with the fire departments on their safety programs to just make sure that they're aware of these claims going through and what the impact is on that. Just a note on that, the rate for the firefighters has no impact on our municipal staff rate. They're completely independent on that. And all the fire departments do still retain their private insurance policies. In the registered levels, the fire departments have all resumed medical response calls, and that's a large increase in the numbers. Actually up from 428 in 2022 to 621 in 2023. But there's no other major changes in the service levels that have been.
Bruce, can I ask which fire departments weren't responding to medical that are now responding?
Well, they were all responding,
I know.
but at different levels.
Okay.
Some of them right now are responding to paramedic request only, and others are responding to all calls. So it's a mixture.
Oh, it's a mix. Okay. Because they all have different levels of training, I'm sure.
Well, not levels of training as much as community need also,
okay.
And yeah, that's a choice of, the really important ones are the critical calls that are going in. And it's not getting any better from the point of view of the response.
Well, if you listen to the chief in Annapolis Royal, have you heard that interview?
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more of a load on our
Major.
Absolutely.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I mean, just 621 calls in 2023, and that's way up. And we're spending longer on each call because of
That's what, and that's
Yeah.
2 hours.
Because they're waiting for ambulances.
Yeah, and we're doing more. We're not only, we're actually attending to patient care. So that is an issue that we're trying to do. But the overall calls were up from the over 1,300 calls last year, which is way up. It was 900 before, and of course it was recovering from the pandemic years, but it's steadily rising. All departments were up in their response.
Well, why do you think that is, Bruce?
Primarily due to the medicals, but if you look at statistics in the information report, structure fires.
We've had a few fires.
Yeah.
Okay. That's primarily, and also the number of mutual aid calls is up because we have more fire departments responding to one incident, and they're providing support to each other. So, yeah. In the operations, no major changes to the chief officers. Some departments are coming up for annual reviews in the next couple of months. So, but as of 2023, there was no major changes. Our volunteer force remains in and around 200, so there has not been a significant change in the numbers. Recruitment and retention, of course, because always a concern. The other change in the operations and the governance is now departments and commissions are attending fire advisory, which is working right now, meeting every 2 months. And just on training, we have 18, which is a very good turnout, 18 volunteers attending the Level 1 program, which we didn't do over the pandemic years, but now we've got it going again, so it's
That's good.
Good movement on that. So that's a summary of the highlights. I can just point out maybe on the information report, which was included as an attachment. As I said, the calls went up from 914 to over 1,300. Non-structure fires were up slightly, and they represent 1.1% of our total calls. Non-structure fires were up, and that was up to nearly 6% of our calls. That's chimney fires vehicle fires, grass fires, and that. Of course, we know we responded to several fires, forest fires over the last year.
Wow.
Yeah. We talked about medical responses. Motor vehicle accidents were up slightly. They're representing 7% of our total calls. And the other category, which is non-classified, that's power lines down, trees across roads, flooded basements, all of the ones that they're responding to. Of course, with the floods and the forest fires this year, they were up significantly. Actually, 15% of our total calls were skewed about those types of things. I know Chester and a number of other, not during the floods, were at like 24/7. And yeah, and our mutual aid calls, as we talked about, were up slightly. So all that information and stats are in the attached report.
Yeah, well.
The attached report didn't get circulated, Bruce, so we'll circulate that.
Right.
I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure either,
Yeah.
but yeah, but we'll get that circulated. So I would recommend the motion that council receive and approve the request for decision, the annual P33 documents, which will allow myself to go ahead and issue the Schedule B registration letters, and that'll close off our commitments to the policy for this year.
Tina, you had something you want to say first?
Doesn't have to be related to the motion, but yeah, certainly first, okay, yes, so two things. Appreciate the stats, as you know, because I usually do an annual update to New Ross in the flyer, and I'm looking at last year's in front of me now, so it's my time to do it again, I guess. I include what we do in New Ross, and then compare, and then just the total for all departments. So I know that other councillors may do the same, I don't know, but I know that in New Ross we certainly pay attention to that. That's wonderful to see, so thank you for compiling that. My second statement or question isn't necessarily related to Bruce, but it brings to mind when you're talking fire services rate and the departments and commissions that we have and the new fire committee here in the village. I forget what it's called, the proper name of it.
Chester Fire Advisory.
Chester Fire Advisory. The annual meeting was held last week, and I'm wondering if the three councillors, any or all of you were probably there, and how it went?
I was there, Andre was there. They presented, there were no questions, issues from the public. I know that they're intending to put the rate up
for the building,
to try to get more in reserve for the potential new building. But
right on.
no, they presented some design or potential design of the building. And
excellent, very good.
can I add to that?
No, not even really design, more of a footprint.
Footprint, yeah,
site plan.
Yeah.
So are there any timelines on when they expect to start, or?
I think they're quite a ways from that. They got to do a little engagement first, make sure that they know how it's going to be used and
funding.
Yeah, they're still working on a lot of details. I think we'll have lots of chance to see it and if we have any comment to provide it.
It's still with the initial consultant.
Very preliminary.
Just on that timing, from a point of view of rate changes, we have a lot of difficulty in getting some of the financials. There was just Grant Thornton and other groups were just overloaded for some reason this year. But the annual reports, or the reports for next year's or this year's coming out, go in May and they're due back in August, so we cover that rate change.
But it was very nice to see that the group seemed to be working well and they seemed very organized. It was nice to see that, and we will be getting, I guess, the financials because we're a partner on
that'll change
that
next
budget.
year.
We'll be getting that.
So they, obviously they bought the land, have they taken possession of that land that where
Oh, I think they've owned that piece of land for a
they're?
bit.
So, I guess, remind me, how did they buy it? With their own funds, or was it all?
Village owns it right now.
Village commission.
The village commission owns it, okay.
Okay, somebody prepared to move, we, accept.
Motion number one, recommendation number one, I won't read it over.
Second,
All those in favor? Oh, motion's carried.
Is that all right, Pam?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gracious.
Okay, now Derek just left the room, and the next item is,
All right, let's get it, he's gone.
yeah, and I'm just gonna say this, you can disagree with me if you want to, but I think we should delay it because we didn't get the maps and the list of roads. It's available now, but most of us would probably like to look at it and read it before we start talking about what we want to do.
yes.
I just, yeah.
The only commentary I have is that, maybe, is there any value in doing some, like, we're here and we have some stuff, should we get some preamble so we can go away? We don't have to make a decision today, but we could get some information.
We have copies, I think Manny has copies
There's copies,
for
it's
you,
just that
and
none
we
of
have
us have
digital
looked at it. We
copy.
thought it was
It's
really-
just that,
Yeah.
yeah. So we can absolutely do the presentation and have initial discussion if
Okay.
you'd like.
I guess the only, what I hope doesn't happen, because we love to do this, is we expand a project
Oh, I know.
so big that then nothing happens instead of just,
Yeah, I just don't even know what one keeps along my district. I have no clue.
Exactly, and who's driving the interest? Is it 1 or 2 or 5 people? Like, I have to give this
I
some
just like to
thought.
look at it first, that's all.
We've got a lot of unopened
Geez,
roads.
a lot of things.
Well, that's what I mean, I'd like to take a look at it.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this.
Maybe we should.
Oh, I've never seen it, I don't even know what they are.
No, I know.
Well, what do we want to do? I mean, I'd like to look at the thing before I start talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't even know where they are.
Well, we'll tell you.
We just, yeah, but
No, we just
none of
got-
us have
just
seen
got it.
them. The whole, I didn't even get a copy this time.
Sounds stolen.
Well, no, it's just a lot to look at before I have the discussion. I don't know what's going.
We don't need to make a decision today.
Well, what are we gonna do then?
No, we gotta get it at the table to start with. That's what we were trying to do.
Well, I just like to look at what I have at the table, that's all.
Today,
No, I want to put it off until you take it home and look at it.
take a 5-minute break while you look at it.
That's like more than a 5-minute break.
It's important, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here, right?
Yes, and I'd like to look at it, so before I even have a discussion about what's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever.
And I don't think we're at that stage yet. I agree, I think it's just,
Well, I don't think it's important enough that we can't wait till next week, let's put it that way, so I get a chance to look at it.
no one is arguing, I think we should have some.
There's a lot of work in this.
Yeah, thank you for this. Yeah.
So can we wait till next week or not?
Wow.
Anything worth waiting for, right?
well,
Yeah.
in truth, it's a better item for a committee of the whole anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay, so we're taking it off the agenda, we're putting it back on for next week.
Next week is council. Do you want it on for next week's council or
I don't
wait till
care.
the next committee of the whole?
I don't care which one
We
it is.
had a double council.
It doesn't matter to me which one, I just want a chance to look at it.
Yep,
Wow.
yep. Take a look at the weight of each of those agendas and make a decision, I guess, is that.
Yeah, there was a lot on for next week, that's why we
Well, then
switched.
put it on for the following one, it's not like we have to do it tomorrow.
You hear
or else
that
the world
week,
falls
Derek?
apart.
I'm happy, and actually, I think it should go to the committee of the whole and not
Yeah.
council.
Okay, we'll put it
But
on.
I'd like to make a comment on this before you take it off the table. Guess I want to, some preliminary thoughts on this. Before, can we just have a short discussion on it? Sure.
Well, as long as it doesn't get into whose roads or what,
No?
because none of us have looked at it.
I've got a couple of questions that maybe we can get the answers on before
Okay, ask the
next
question.
week. One of your legends, there is uncertain ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what maps those would appear on. I don't think there can be many of those, are there?
There aren't many. The uncertain ownership legend was put there because our GIS specialist, when he created the maps, he didn't have any information as to whether it was provincially owned or whether it was municipally owned. If any of the uncertain ownership roads are ones that council wishes us to pursue, we will certainly go into a deeper investigation as to what what the ownership is, status is.
So can you identify, I didn't, I'm not maps over there. A lot of maps.
So, yeah, well, this is the entire number of unopened roads. So if we look on page 1, actually, the 605747112, it's only quite a thin red line. So that would be an uncertain ownership road that we'd have to look into further.
I don't see it. Sorry.
It's just this one here.
It's just a very narrow strip.
But it's come up as an unopened road, but we were unsure.
Well, I can tell you owns it.
Okay.
Okay, so those are not, we know who owns that, anyway.
Right.
So I'll ask a question before we move on.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sue, sorry.
I just want,
What I'm mainly interested here are obviously the
the ones that
village
go to the ocean.
and the ones that go to the ocean. And I think a lot of this other stuff we can put off and go to each of your districts and see what might be of interest and not. My interest at the present time is initially Granite Street going to the ocean and some of the other ones, and this has been on council before, they went to the province, they want a lot of money. The attitude may have changed, or maybe more of a willingness to pass these over. But my focus is on the blue ones in the corridor village, and not so much the ones on the other, the orange ones are ours anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the rest of us haven't really given.
I understood, but I just wanted to say, my focus, get this on
Right now is on the ocean.
is on the ocean ones, the access, the public access to the ocean, which I think we all would like to see more of. Anyway, so yeah, put it out for 2 weeks to the committee of the whole, and I think.
Yeah, just
All
like
of us
that.
will have a chance to look.
Manny, are those PID numbers that are on the maps here?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, new business, designated community
I think that was
funds
taken.
and, I think it's not under that, it's,
Oh, you missed it.
what did I miss?
The email from John.
Oh, yeah, no, we took that off of the list because he's withdrawn the
The
application.
application, yeah.
The John
That was new
McDonald.
news.
This is the,
Oh,
I think they just wanted to make council aware that there was a meeting at the District 1 Community Center regarding
that's one,
some
yeah.
changes to the provincial government's regulation of open pen agriculture.
Yeah.
And, it's on Sunday from 2 to 4. Unfortunately, I'm going to be taking in a cheer event in Truro. So
Oh, fun.
Yeah, your daughter's
I have to
doing
say
well.
that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that I won't be able to attend this, but, to those councillors who wish to attend, just to make you aware.
Can we represent you? I'd love to
All
represent you
standing
there. Would you like me to represent you there, Andre?
Okay, so that was information, thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, the Community Development Fund, and then there's a couple of district grant requests. Yeah. Pretty straightforward,
This
I
is
think.
pretty straightforward, self-explanatory, yeah, so, we do have that, request, from the Chester Basin Legion for the $2,995 that we put in through the designated community fund, and they're requesting those funds, for a couple of projects they have on their way, the roof projects, which there seem to be a lot of roof right now.
That was
in need of
big.
repair, so some roof repair projects and, heat pump repair project as well.
Somebody want to move, we give them their money? Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion carried.
And then the other one is a district grant request, from the Chester Basin Legion, I believe, yeah, you're
And all
aware
in
of that
favor,
now.
I told them to ask me.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion carried. And that's it. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna take a 10-minute break, and then we got a couple in-camera matters.
Thank God. Are you going to do the motion
Oh.
on the camera before?
Oh, we can have a,
Motion to go in camera.
well, a motion, no, I'm not gonna make the motion to go in camera until I can, well, I can if you want me to.
No, it's, I'm just going to stop the streaming is all.
Yeah,
Just
stop the
block.